Here, Wine passed a glass of water to her husband, who gave her a tired smile and gulped down the water in one go. He kept the empty glass down on the tea table, leaned back on the couch, and closed his eyes. She peered at her worn out husband and walked behind the couch where he was sitting. She placed her hands on his torn shoulder and pressed his tense up muscles. He hummed in ecstasy as she pressed her fingers on the right spots. You look tired, she whispered, rubbing her thumb near his atlas bone. He let out a throaty hum and leaned against her touch, as if asking for more. I have had a really hectic work schedule this week, and the launch of new winter collection only added fuel to the fire. I didn't even get the time to have lunch, he explained and craned his neck to gaze at her through his tired eyes. She let out a sigh and bent down, leaving a feathery back on his forehead. Go and change, I'll serve the dinner. She placed another pack on his forehead before standing upright. He let out an exhausted sigh and nodded. He was about to get up when Papa, his lips curved into a smile involuntarily when he heard his son's sweet voice. The 4-year-old came running towards him and jumped on his lap before Wine could stop him. Did you bring what I asked for? He purred near his father's ear, careful to not let his mother know what he did behind her back. He glanced at his mother, who frowned, watching the hushed interaction between father-son duo. 1 second, Jaemin. He reached out for his laptop bag and pulled out a packet of gummy bears. Is this what you wanted? He asked his little one, who nodded vigorously with a wide grin adorning his lips, and extended his little hands to grab the packet, but it was snatched by his mother. Jamin, what did I tell you yesterday? No more sweets, right? She asked strictly, whilst Jamin looked down and nodded slightly. His lips puckered into a sad pout. And Jimin, why did you bring it for him? He has been eating a lot of sweets lately. I strictly prohibited him for more. Papa, only this one. I won't eat more, I promise. He cupped his cheeks, looking at him with his the best innocent puppy eyes, which could even melt a hard rock. And here's what Jimin, soft like mochi, whose heart melted like ice. Jimmy looked at Wine, pleading through his eyes, but Wine remained firm, her strict stance unwavering. Let him have it, Wine. This is the last one. This is the last one, Jamin, okay? You won't ask for more. He softly scolded Jamin, who nodded vigorously, desperate to get his hold on the packet of gummy bears. Promise, Mama. He tried to pacify his mother. Wine sighed in defeat when both father and son gazed at her with their infamous puppy eyes. Here, have it. She forwarded the packet to him, who cheered in excitement. Yay! Thank you, Papa. He kissed his cheek and stood on the couch to reach Wine. As she understood what he wanted to do, she crossed down to his level, letting him kiss her cheek. I love you, Mama. Love Mama or love gummy bears, hmm? She narrowed her eyes whilst he giggled, showing his teeth. I'll go and play in my room. He hopped down the couch and ran towards his room, leaving his parents chuckling at his cuteness. Don't spoil him too much, she said, taking a seat beside Jimin. You are there to rectify him. Let me spoil him, and you too. He brought out milk chocolate, knowing how much his wife loves it. A contented expression marked his face when her eyes brightened up looking at the sweet delight. She lunged forward, but he was quick to pull his hand back. Not so easily, Mrs. Park. First thank me like Jamin did earlier. Show some manners, baby. He teased, a mischievous smirk tugged at his lips. She squinted her eyes, well aware of what he wanted. She inched closer to kiss his cheeks, but he had other intentions. He puckered his lips, gesturing her to kiss his lips. She cupped his face, pecking his lips once, twice, thrice, and parted away, snatching the bar from him before he could deepen the kiss. Go and freshen up, Mr. Park. I'll heat up the dinner for you. She smiled at him and made her way towards the kitchen whilst he groaned, craving for more. Jimin sat on the bed looking at Ryan, who paced around the room collecting Jamin's toy, which was scattered all over the room. This boy is just like his father. He won't have a peaceful sleep unless he made me tired. She dumped his toys in his toy box, though he has his own room, but he was obsessed with playing in his parents' room. After piling up the mess Jaemin created, she stood in front of her dressing table to do her skincare. Squirting out some moisturizer in her palm, she gently applied it on her face, followed by her arms. From the corner of her eyes, she observed Jaemin's intense gaze, following her every movement. When she was applying lip balm on her chapped lips, she felt herself engulfing in the familiar embrace. The warmth radiating off his body was comforting. He placed his head on her shoulder whilst she leaned back, placing her hands over his, which was securely wrapped around her waist. Did I tell you how gorgeous you are looking right now? He nuzzled his nose on her rosy cheek, erupting a heartfelt chortle from her. You say it every time. Because you look breathtaking every time. She shuddered when he placed a wet kiss on her neck. They stared at each other through mirror. I missed you, he mumbled and placed another kiss on her jawline. She closed her eyes when he trailed his wet kisses from her cheeks all the way to the arc of her neck. She sucked in a deep breath when he nibbled on her earlobe, gently biting it. He gazed at her reflection, eyes shut tightly, flushed face, pink cheeks, chest heaving up and down as she tried to calm her uneven breathing. A satisfactory smile broke out on her lips, seeing his effect on her. He moved back a little and turned her around. She opened her eyes to meet his captivating orbs, which casted a spell on her as she felt herself drowning more and more into them. She noticed him averting his gaze to her lips. Feeling his intense stare there, she involuntarily licked her lips. He let out a breathy grunt as she was turned on just by a small action. Not being able to hold himself back, he attacked on her luscious lips, sucking life out of her. She tried to match his pace, but he was way more desperate and passionate than her. She arced back when he snuggled more into her as if he wanted to melt into her. After assaulting her lips for a good 5 minutes, he pulled back to let her breathe for a few moments. She panted heavily, trying to steady her breathing. Her heart drummed inside her ribcage that she could hear it in her ears, and she was sure Jimin could also feel it. Jimin, she breathed out. God, how can you make my name sound so good? I I can't control anymore, he mumbled before smashing his lips on hers once again. His hands slid from her waist to her hips. She wrapped her legs around his torso when he swiftly picked her up and advanced towards the bed. She felt her back pressed against the mattress as he laid her down, hovering over her. His lips never left hers. The gentle gaze turned into intense lip lock as she struggled to keep up with his pace. She moaned in his mouth when his hands found a way inside her sweater. His cold hands against her warm skin made chills run down her spine. He roamed his hands all over her milky soft skin. His fingers played with her navel when his lips played with her lips. Park Jimin does not kiss. Park Jimin devours. She stabbed his shoulder when she felt her lungs swelling due to lack of air. He left her lips, leaving her gasping for air as he continued his sweet torture on her jaw and down to her neck. She shivered when he placed a lingering peck on her sweet spot. A loud moan slipped her throat when he sucked on the same spot, biting and nibbling there, soothing it with his warm tongue afterwards. Her hands slumped beside her head, clutching on the bed sheet as he continued biting on her skin, leaving trails of red purplish marks behind. He held the hem of her sweater as he came back to her lips. Pulling her in another kiss for tonight, he continued to devour her lips, which seemed like a tasted dessert for him. The cold and warm remnants of his passion on her skin, her swollen lips, and flushed face were the clear evidences of his insatiable desires for her, and obvious manifestations of his wants and needs about her. As they continued to devour each other's lips, forgetting about their surroundings, their hands roamed around each other's bodies. Unaware of them, A cute, naughty interruption sneakily skid inside their room, only to witness them hungrily eating out each other. A shrill cry echoed through the hot ambience of the room, which made them stop abruptly. They gazed at each other with before looking towards the door where stood their little one, thick tears rolling down his chubby cheeks. Juan hastily pushed Jimin off her body and got down the bed, walking towards her wailing son. She crossed onto his level and cupped his face. What happened, baby? Why are you crying? Instead of answering, he cried even more when he noticed the marks on her neck. Jaemin buddy Jimin halted when the little boy lunged forward and stood in front of his mother, spreading his little arms, shielding her from his father. Wine and Jimin shared a confused glance before looking at Jaemin, who was now glaring at Jimin through his glossy eyes. Don't come near my mama, he warned. His loud cries had died down into soft sniffs. What happened, Jamin? He tried to step closer, but Jamin pushed him with her little hands. I won't let you eat my mama, stay away. Jamin startled, seeing his son furiously pushing him away. He looked at Wine, who was equally shocked as him. Jamin, baby, what happened? She softly asked, twirling the little boy towards her. Her heart filled with worry when she noticed a sheen of tears in his doe eyes. He hugged her neck and stroked her head like she does to him. Don't worry, Mama. I'll protect you from this monster. I won't let him eat you. Jimin parted away and peered at the marks on Ryan's neck. Does it hurt, Mama? He pointed at the hickey's, his voice laden with concern. Ryan looked at where he was pointing and closed her eyes in embarrassment. It didn't take long for her to understand what was going on in his small brain. Baby, these are insect bites. They were a big bug in the room. Papa wasn't eating me. She made up a quick excuse. Her cheeks turned red when she glanced at Jimin, who was now smirking at her. I know you are lying. You don't have to be scared of him. I'll protect you. I'll sleep with you, Mama, Jamin said. Vine's heart melted seeing her little son being protective towards her, but there was someone whose eyes popped out hearing him. No, you can't. Go and sleep in your room, Jamin. Jamin turned toward his father, cutely glaring at him as he placed his hands on his tiny waist. You are sending me in my room so that you can eat my mama, right? Exactly. No, I mean we want to sleep. I have to go to work in the morning and your mama has work too, right, Ryan? Looked at Ryan, who nodded in agreement. Jamie looked between them, thinking deeply. Ryan silently giggled, seeing the father-son duo glaring at each other. Why did we prepare a separate room for you when you have to sleep between us every other day? He uttered, annoyed by his situation. He was pushed at one edge of the bed by Jamin while Ryan lay on the other edge with Jamin sticking to her like another skin. Ryan chuckled, instantly gaining the attention of Jamin, who squinted his eyes at her. Don't look at my mama. He covered her face with his tiny hands glaring at Jimin. Jimin made upteamed efforts to pacify him and send him back to his room, but the little boy didn't budge and stayed glued to his mother. No wonder my father never liked me. He murmured, shaking his head, whilst Wine had a hard time in stifling her laugh. I want to sleep, Mama. He rubbed his eyes. Wine pulled him in her embrace and gently stroked his head to make him sleep. Few minutes later, when Jimin thought Jimin had fallen asleep, he made another effort to get close to his wife. He slowly skid towards them. Sensing some movement beside him, Jimin quickly opened his eyes and turned around and blocked him with his limbs to make any further movement. Stay away from my mama. Jimin grunted and went back to his previous place. Wyan looked at him helplessly, feeling bad for him. Jimin, Papa wants to hug us. She tried to coax him with sweet words, but that little stubborn kid shook his head and hugged her tightly as if she would disappear. She sighed and patted his back. Taking a quick glance at Jimin, she found him laying with closed eyes. Shrugging off her thoughts, she decided to sleep as well. as she was tired after a really chaotic day. In the middle of her sleep, Vine felt herself in air. She fluttered her eyes open and found herself being carried in Jimin's arms. "What are you doing, Jimin?" she asked sleepily, glancing in Jaemin's direction, who was sleeping peacefully, secured by pillows around him. "Jimin, what is this?" she asked again when he placed her down on the table inside the walk in closet. He made a quick run and locked the closet door, not wanting the history to repeat itself. He stood before her, making space between her thighs. "Why aren't you saying something?" "You know, I don't like to leave things hanging in between, so I took you here to complete what we left earlier." He nuzzled his face in the crook of her neck, placing desperate kisses. She placed her hands on his chest and pushed him gently. "Jaemin is outside. He will wake up." "He won't. You have to be silent. I'll make it quick." He leaned closer and grabbed her lips between his, pulling her in a passionate lip lock. She moaned in his mouth, shrugging off her other thoughts. She pulled him closer by his neck, enjoying the moment with him. He held the hem of her sweater. They broke the kiss for a moment when he swiftly peeled it off her body and again lashed his lips on hers. They were so into the moment, their minds clouded with needs until, "Mama." They flinched and parted away when they heard Jamin's voice from outside. "Mama, where are you?" Jimin groaned in frustration when his voice got more louder, followed by his cries. Wine jumped down the table. Grabbing her sweater, she threw it back on. "I regret it," he grated out. "Regret what?" "I badly regret not using protection that night." He breathed out in annoyance when he heard loud wails of his son. Wine chuckled and packed his lips. "Sorry, baby, maybe next time." She proceeded to walk towards the door. "What should I do with the mess that you created?" Wyatt turned back and looked at him apologetically and exited the closet. "Guess I'll have to take a cold shower." He grabbed a towel and walked towards the door, which was attached to the bathroom. "I'll surely die with pneumonia by the amount of cold showers I'm taking nowadays," he muttered before entering inside the bathroom to take care of his mess. "I guess Jamin won't let them give him a sibling."